Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News, and with Sentinels finishing the year in a very impressive way, there's been lots of debate and speculation over the last few days as to how good Sentinels will actually be once the proper season gets underway. FNS has said that if they can keep up this current level, they will be a top 3 team going into next season, but Sideshow reckons that the way their map pool is currently set up makes it very difficult to say they can be a top 3 team when they're not particularly good at all on 3 maps in the rotation as it stands. Does he believe that when the teams get better as well around Sentinels, and the fact that Sen have a lot of VOD to be watched by other teams, and other teams don't necessarily, that when the season actually begins, they're going to be significantly weaker than they showed most recently? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty of interesting stories. Firstly, I thought this was pretty cool from Connor actually pointing out that you guys probably remember the outlaw sniper rifle weaponry that was appeared here quite a while ago between the Marshal and the Operator. And people wondered, okay, what's this going to be? How exactly is it going to work? Is it going to do like 125 damage? Because if it does, that would be a very interesting weapon, because it's kind of meta right now to buy half armor, has been for some time. So the Operator is, sure, the Marshal can do enough damage and it can headshot you, but the Outlaw, if it was kind of like the in-between weapon, would be very interesting. Now, it could also be like, you know, a burst sniper maybe, but I think that'd be a little bit strange. There might be other interesting things about it, but it seems to be arriving at some point. And actually, it was spotted here that in this, what looks like a bit of a teaser. So just to have a look at this image real quick, we see on the left-hand side, we've got the Vandal, we've got other weapons. On the right-hand side, we have what looks like the Marshal here in the distance. On the right-hand side, you guys can probably just about make out what looked like the Marshal. Then we have the Operator, and then in the close grounds, in the foreground, we have an empty shelf of what is presumably in the other sniper rifle, right? Because we've got the Marshal, the Operator, and then this kind of empty rack where you'd think maybe the Outlaw belongs. So I don't know if that's indicating anything. I guess we'll stay tuned. But it's possible we get a new sniper rifle in the game in the near future, which would be interesting to see how they're going to make it work, because it's going to be kind of halfway between on pricing, apparently, between the other 2 weapons in that category. So is it going to be halfway between in terms of damage, which actually might make it very strong indeed. Few updates as well going down on the Challengers side going into next season. So the Northern Europe Polaris tournament will return for Challengers next season, now under basically Missed Games are going to be running it for the new season. So they're going to come up with the details when they can. Thought it was really cool as well to see Bodork get involved in this. He's been such a big proponent of challenges in this region and some of the problems and some of the solutions that might work for the region, that he's going to join at Missed Games and work for them as social media and esports strategy manager for the Challengers Polaris tournament, helping them with their operations, ensure the long-term future of talent and brands, and you know, super passionate about this scene. So I'm hoping that he can do a great job and there isn't too much red tape and friction, that he can get done what he wants to get done. So hopefully that goes to plan. There's also some other details that were announced about this on the Challengers vision, let's say, for EMEA. So they come up with an interesting article and statement. One of the interesting things for sure is on the two-way players. That's been a big talking point lately, where teams in the Pro League can effectively partner, so partner teams can partner in some way with a tier 2 team in challenges, so that they have access to players both ways. So let's say a substitute player from the, you know, from the main team could also be playing in challenges, and it kind of makes sense. But the question is, does it make sense for both parties? I think is always the concern with that. But affiliate partnerships, loans, and stuff like this, they also go on to mention all of the dates when this type of stuff is actually getting underway. So as you guys can see, two-way players allowing competing in both the VCT League and another competition with their respective affiliate teams. So I guess that's how they call it. You've got partner teams, and then you've got affiliate teams to those partner teams that are competing in the Challengers Tier 2 seeds. It's all a little bit complicated, but the two-way players can either be on the active or the reserve roster. You can only have 2 of them. They go into some details. These are the key dates as well, so this is the thing with European challenges. There's a load of different leagues that are challenging to keep up with, at least have been historically. Eastern Europe, Spain, Portugal, Turkey, DAC, of course, so that's basically Deutschland, isn't like Germany, Austria, and then Switzerland, France, Italy, Middle East and Africa, and then Northern Europe Polaris, which is to be determined. But I think understandably, after these announcements about the EMEA side, people are wondering, all right, when's the NA Challengers format coming? Like, what's going on? Because let's not forget last year, it was pretty much January that we started to get all the qualifiers going on for the, for the challenger scene. The teams would qualify through open qualifiers, they'd make it through. Of course, that year, there were no teams initially determined, so everyone had to qualify. This year, some of the teams that did well enough last year's challenges, they stay. But of course, some of those teams, many of them made many roster changes. We've got Shopify and, like Moist Moguls combining, right? It's Moist X Shopify now, so that means there's a new spot up for grabs. There's other, G2, of course, are gone. So, there's that spot up for grabs as well. So there's a few things that need to be determined there. Exactly when the qualifiers are going to be for teams like the open qualifiers, and also for the teams that are going to be there, such as M80, right, that have been confirmed because they did well enough last year and nearly won Ascension, didn't in the end, so they're going to stay in challenges. But what's going on? What's the format? How does it work? Is it going to be the same as last year when they do 2 splits? There's a mid-season invitational. There's more points for the second split than the first split to qualify for Ascension. Was that a good format? There was debate on it at the time. Will they change it? I don't know. But as it stands, we don't know. And BCJ is like, could you please announce this soon? Because in, realistically a month's time, we should be playing qualifiers for challenges. Maybe BCJ and M80 won't be getting involved yet, but most of the teams that are outside of it possibly will. We saw last year, Sinatra even, right? He played in a kind of with a bit of a fun team, but it happens. And it might well happen again, depending on the circumstances going forward. But let's talk about Sentinels, because they dominated, frankly, the Africa TV League tournament. So they won against PaperX in the finals. And as I've said a couple of times, it's, I think this is a little bit different to when 100 Thieves won the home grounds, because that was impressive what they did last December, 100T, but they didn't really beat anyone necessarily on the level that Sentinels did, and I don't think they looked really quite as impressive. But then again, it's an off-season tournament. You can't read too much into it. The season hasn't officially got underway yet, and there's a few reasons why Sentinels are going to have a hard time keeping this level up. There's been some debate on it though, because FNS, who is notoriously at times a bit of a Sentinels glazer, he has been very optimistic on this team, and we talked about it yesterday, saying that as far as he's concerned, in some ways they're better than the Sentinels 2021 team was in terms of how they're winning these games, actually playing well as a team rather than just outskilling their opposition. He also said that if they play as they currently are, then they should be a top 3 team in the world when the season begins. Of course, there's other teams in the debate. Who knows how good PaperX are going to be? Are they going to come back stronger? Fnatic, Na'Vi, many other teams. The Americas as well is stacked. Maybe Leviathan, NRG. Like, these are some great teams. But he reckons Sentinels could be top 3. Soicho, though, different opinion on this. He was watching the games back and saying that he can't, in good faith, put Sentinels top 3, firstly really on an off-season tournament, but also on their map pool, which is an interesting point of view that this past weekend at the Africa TV tournament, they didn't play that many different maps. They were pretty selective in what they played. There were only a few maps they got over the line. They haven't really played any Lotus at all, so this is what the respective parties have to say on this one.
But the question is, can they maintain the form? Yes, that's my question.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, there's no way Sentinels keeps up this form forever. And if they do,
they win.
They will win everything. They'll actually win everything.
They're playing at a level where they're making the opposition look bad, and the opposition is actually insanely good.
Dude, when you put it like that, it's...
That's my point, is like that's how good they're playing. So this form is very hard to maintain. If they can do it, yeah, they're top 3 easy.
So I think people are forgetting from this finals that Sentinels didn't have to play Haven and Ascent. Or Lotus. They do actually have 3 maps that they look bad on. It's pretty difficult to be top 3 in the world with 3 maps that you look bad on.
So that's the thing with Sentinels. There's always a debate between how much of it is hopium, how much of it is legitimate, but, at the end of the day, people are going to look at this sort of run where they lost their first show match against the Moist Shopify. Let's not forget, they dominated the bind there 13-2. They then lost the Ascent and the Haven. Those are 2 maps they've not stayed away from necessarily. They have stayed away from Ascent, though, to be fair, in recent times. They're not so happy about that. But let's be honest, when they played that series, that was like their first series. They're playing with Pancada then. So it's a different team to when they rematched them. They then played Sunset, which they won. They lost the Haven again, and then they won the split in a decider. But over, since they've played those series, they've clearly improved quite dramatically to the point where they 3-0'd PaperX in the grand finals of this tournament, playing Split, Sunset, and Breeze. Now, it would have been very interesting if this series went to 4 and 5, because if you guys see here, Sentinels picked Breeze and then they banned Lotus. So Sentinels don't like Lotus. Ascent was the leftover map, and Haven Paper Rex picked. So if this had gone to 4 maps, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened on Haven. Like, would Paper Rex have won that map? And then it had been Ascent Decider, where Sentinels do not have a great history either. So they 3-0'd this series, Sentinels, but if it went to 4, potentially 5, it could have been, understandably, I think, a very different story. This is the map pool, by the way, they have, and look, the map pool is never going to be expansive at this point in the season when they've played for, you know, about a couple of months. I mean, this is from, I put this from September, but really they've only started playing as a team since the end of October, and this is their current map pool. So, you know, they've played Fracture once, they've won it. They've played Pearl once, they've won it. They've played Sunset 8 times. That's their go-to map. They've won 7, they've lost 1, only to Paper Rex, of course, and then they beat them on it again in the finals. They've played Bind 3 times, they've won all of them. They've won every split they've played. They've won every Breeze they've played. So that's their map pool. Their map pool is basically Bind, Split, Breeze, and Sunset, pretty much. And then Ascent, they're 0-3 on. Haven, they're 3-3 on. And Lotus, they haven't played at all. So Sideshow's point was, when you're bad on 3 maps, then you can't be a top 3 team. We don't know how good they are on Lotus, but they do keep banning it. Haven, I think they're okay at Haven, but, you know, they're 3-3 on it. But as I say, a couple of those series were early days, and they were, you know, they were willing to play it in the finals. I mean, they banned Lotus as their kind of perma ban. So it's difficult to say how good their map pool is, because we didn't really see them play Haven or Ascent much at the Africa TV tournament. They mostly got the maps they wanted elsewhere. And sure, this is a good point from Sideshow, that as time progresses, when the season officially begins, people will watch a lot of their VOD on a lot of those maps, and will decide, all right, let's ban this, let's ban that, try and counter them in certain situations. But it's not like Sentinels, it's still kind of early days, you know what I mean? They've only played with Zelsis for not much more than a month now, really, since he's been full-time in the team. So it gives them definitely a lot of runway, I would say, until the season starts to actually learn and improve on other maps. It's in the same way that TenZ is on the Breach, on the Omen, doing a great job. And many people said, well, you know, TenZ won't be able to learn those roles, like, you know, he's only a Jet 1 trick and all this stuff. Clearly, TenZ has put the time in, and he's learned other roles very successfully. And, like, you know, his KO and his Yoru, whenever it's used, is also very valuable in addition. So, you know, I think the Sentinels can definitely learn these other maps, can definitely improve on these other maps, and how good they are, I think, is still a little bit unknown as it stands. But I think it's definitely understandable to have some skepticism both ways. Like, usually Sentinels, it's been the case over the last little bit of time where they'd always show some degree of hope and optimism, and then it all comes crashing down where it really starts to matter. This season feels different, but as I say, it's still very early days, but they couldn't have done any more than they did, frankly, at that tournament last weekend. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.